All right. Express as a percentage. There's only really two key skills that you're going to be learning. And it's just on both pages. So the first skill is on the first page and the second skill is on the second page. Yeah? First skill is to know how to convert anything into a percentage. And it's as simple as one technique. Multiply by 100. That's it. Okay, so if you want to convert anything, decimals, fractions, into a percentage, write for your own notes that you remember, it's just times by 100. Because that's what percentage means. Per means every, cent means 100. So when you say convert it to a percentage, you just need 100 of them. That's why you times by 100. Okay? This is the formula if you want to copy it down or it's already in your notes. That's the formula they give to you. I normally just tell students times 100. That's how you convert it to percentages. Yeah? Let's do an example. Say you got 37 out of 40 for your test, and you want to know that as a percentage, kind of like how I gave you your sacks back and I didn't give the percentage. If you want to work it out, see 37 out of 40 just means 37 over 40. So that's a fraction. But if you want to convert it to a percentage, what was the thing I just told you? How do you convert it to a percentage? You times 100. Literally. Now you don't have to do this by hand because remember at the end of year exam or for the year 12s, you just use a calculator. So here you just need to know how to convert it in on a calculator. 37 and that symbol, what does the symbol mean again? Divide. So you literally type in 37 divide 40 and just by timesing by 100 that will give you the percentage. So I'll do it on a calculator for you to see. Let's see what it looks like. Here you go. I grab out a calculator. And I do... Ooh, wasn't it popping up? Here we go. Let's do it again. 37 divided by... So I'm pressing the divide button. 40 times 100. And you'll get that number. That number is the percentage as it is. So that's what the first skill is just to know how do you convert anything into a percentage. You literally just times it by 100. So we go 92.5. That tells me the answer for this one is 92.5. And don't forget to put the percent symbol. Okay, now, usually for general students, if you do general, if you don't put in the percentage, VCA examiners will penalize you because they don't know what it represents. It does matter if you have the percentage. I'm not sure how harsh VCA is for foundation. Yeah, because it's pretty new. I haven't read too much about it. Most students probably forget to put a percentage. I just don't know how loose they are when it comes to marking. So in my mind, if you can get in the habit of putting the symbols in if you're doing percentages, do it. I just don't know what it's like for next year. Okay? All right. Next one, 18 out of 20. So hopefully as a percentage of 20, what that just basically means is what is 18 in terms of percent out of 20? So in other words, they're just saying if you had 18 out of 20, what is that as a percentage? And same thing again, to convert to percentage, you multiply by 100. Very good. So on your calculator, same thing again. 18 divide 20 times 100. Okay? And here we go. I'm going to do it on a calculator. Or you can times it by 5 because there's 5 lots of 20 and 100s. But here we go. 18 divided by 20 times 100. And we get 90. 90%. So far, so good? Okay, so that's the skill. Now let's try to do a couple other things where they might get you in the exam. So at a year 12 exam, they chuck something like this in an application. They might say find the percentage error or so, and sometimes they change the units. So look at this one that says, what is 50 cents as a percentage of $2? What's a common mistake? Students will then write 50, and it's as a percentage of $2. So they say, oh, out of 2, and I do times 100. What's the problem? Yeah. That's in cents. That's $2. It's not $50 out of $2. This is 50 cents out of $2. But $2 in cents is how much? How many cents are there in $2? 200. Very good. So it's not 50 out of 2. It's meant to be 50 out of 200. So here, when you're comparing them, make sure units are the same. If units aren't the same, it doesn't make sense if you were to find the percentages. Okay? Because if you did 50 divided by 2, you would have got 25. 25 times 100 would have been 2,500. That doesn't make sense. Okay, yeah.
Can't you always also just look at like $2? It's just 25.
Yeah.
Like 25.
Yeah. So that would be better if you had the logic to it. 50 cents is clearly a quarter of $2, which is what you were saying, and a quarter is the same thing as 25%. Okay, so that would have been the other way, but that's what I'm saying. At the end of year, why beating the 26% average is because that logic is not for everyone. Everyone just kind of goes through the motion and not really think about it. But if you think about it logically, just like Liam said, you should have known that was 25% just looking at it, right? But I'm telling you, for the average in the state, that is not common knowledge. Okay, so here we go. 50 cents, if we do convert it, 50 over 200 is exactly the same as what Liam is saying. It is actually a quarter. And then you want to convert that to percentage times by 100. And yes, that does end up being 25%. Okay, so the skill here is to make sure, whether it's in cents or whether it's talking about eggs, like dozens, so 6 eggs versus 1 dozen, which is 12 eggs. Just be careful with the units. Make sure they're all the same. Okay, kilograms and grams, liters and milliliters. You got to know the conversions between those units. Let's try another one. So all of these are all still the first skill. Yeah, first skill is converting to percentages. Example 3. If Roy scored 12 baskets out of their 15 shots from the free throw line, calculate the percentage of free throws. Sometimes in the exam, the last bit of the question, they change the idea. So if they say, sometimes they say scored 12, they might say, what's the percentage of missing the baskets? So you just got to be careful when you're answering the questions. Are you answering to get free throws in, or you are answering the missing or the percentage of error in his shots? Okay, so in this case, we're actually trying to work out the percentage of how much he scored. So in this case, how many did he score? He scored 12 out of his 15 shots. So 12 out of 15. And we want to know the percentage of that. So what is that as his percentage for his shots getting in? Well, to change it, again, we times it by 100. So on your calculator, same thing. 12 divide 15 times 100. That should get you your percentage. Cool? All right, here we go. 12 divided by 15 times 100. And I get 80. So that tells us now his percentage of scoring, based on that average there, he's got an 80% average of scoring. Okay? So far, so good. That's the first skill. So part of exercise 8.3 in your Year 11 textbook, that's main skill. So we start off with just doing numbers. Then we start off with making sure your units are right. And third one is apply to a scenario. Okay? In Year 12 exams, they just change the scenario slightly, and just be careful that you're reading it carefully. Yeah? Flip over the page. So here's your second skill. So the first one is to convert to percentages. This one is probably more examinable. I often see this one. So percentage change. The formula looks scary, and that's why I often put it in for both the 12s and the 11s. But percentage change, I think students get confused what it actually means. Percentage change is where you start and then where you end up. Whatever that change was, what is that as a percentage? That's what they're really saying. So for example, if in your pocket right now, let's think about it logically. If you have $10 in your pocket right now, and then by end of today, you end up with $15. Now, if I asked you how much you gained at the end of this day, how much did you gain? $5. So a lot of people understood that. But if I asked you in terms of percentage, that's what they mean by percentage change. They might say, by the end of the day, what was the percentage change? That one stumps people a bit because we don't speak in that language. We often say $5 change, increase in X amount of dollars. But in the business world and in reality, when you earn a lot of money, to the dollar cents is too little to really talk about. So they talk about percentages instead. So here we might want to say, is it a 50% increase? Is it a 30% increase? How much of an increase is it? So how do you work it out? Well, in this case, you told me there was a $5 gain. $5 out of, well, what did you start off with? 10. You started off with 10. That was your baseline. So remember, starting to your finishing. So you had $5 extra from your starting point, which is what I'm saying here. Original means starting point. So when I say original, I mean, where is your starting point? So you got 5 out of $10. $10 what you started. You gained $5. Now, what is that as a percentage? Again, how do you change to percentage? Times it by 100. Now, logically, you guys don't need to calculate for this bit. 5 out of 10 is what as a percentage? 50%. So the language, if I asked you before, you start off at $10 in your pocket. By the end of today, you get $15. If I asked you what was your percentage increase or change, you would say I had a 50% increase. So if in terms of business, you would say I had a 50% profit because you gained 50%. Okay, so that's the language you will hear outside in the real world. For us, everyday commoners, we would say $5 gain. Yeah, but it's just knowing how to change that $5 change into a percentage is what this second skill is. Still the same as the first one. It's just put into context. Yeah, so here we go. Let's do example 4. Do 2 for now. And then if you have time, do 3. Because the more you can compare, the more I know if you know your stuff. Yeah. All right, so example 4. A t-shirt was on sale. Then it reduced from $89 to $60. Okay, so a t-shirt used to be $89. Now it's $60. They want you to calculate what percentage was taken off the original price. Give your answer to the nearest percentage. Okay, so it sounds hard. It isn't, because we're just thinking about the same thing. Where did it change from? How much is that change? And then what is that as a percentage? Yeah, so here we go. From $89 is where we started. So we started at $89 and we dropped down to $60. What's the change? Yes, it is $29. So 89 minus 60 tells you the difference. On your calculator, you can take a difference, or you can do it in your head or by hand. But 89 take away 60 is 29. Okay, so you got a $29 drop. So drop down by 29 minus $29. That's what you would say in a commoner way. But in a business sense, we want to know how much percentage did you drop on this item. So $29 out of what? So how do you work out the percentage? Is 29 out of 89? Very good. It's what you started off with. Okay, so you start off 89. That's the original amount. 29 out of the 89 you've lost. What is that as a percentage? Times by 100. Okay, so times by 100 will change it to a percentage. And here we go. I'm going to go on the calculator. 29 divided by 89. And then times by 100. And I get 32.58. 32.58. Don't forget the percentage symbol. So this means when they ask you, well, what percentage was taken off the original price? Well, I've taken off 32.58% off the original price. Okay, so there was a discount of 32.58%. So in a business setting, that is more reasonable. So you'd say item A, t-shirt A with that design A had a 32.58% drop in their sales. That's a lot more powerful than you saying dropped $29 for every t-shirt. People are like, yeah, I don't know what that means. Overall, in the profit sense, the percentage is what they want to hear. Okay? All right. And the last question is pretty much just putting it into perspective. Same concept. I'll leave that there. That's actually question 14. So just in case you couldn't see it, I printed it out so it's a bit bigger for you to see. But a store claims to be taking 40% off the prices. So all of these went from $99 to now $59.40, $59.95 down to $35.95, $19.50 to $11.70, and then $116 to $74.80. Is it true that all of it is actually 40%? True or false? And then back up your claims. That's what question 14 is. So I put out a table for you. I filled out some of the numbers for you already. So I try to guide you. What was the change from 99 to 59? 99 to 59.40, 116. So what's the change? Work out the percentage. Are they all 40%? Or are they not all 40%? Cool? I'll leave that for you to try. And that's 8.3. Remember, you got today and tomorrow to work on 8.3. Okay? And then next week, I'll have a video ready for 8.2. So whilst the year 12s are doing their individual SAC, you'll then be doing 8.2. Okay? And again, you will have 2 sessions to do that, and then the year 12s will catch up with you guys at that point. Cool? I'll stop there.